Hey, Wright family, thank you for calling me to do an analysis on your house. Um, I was able to get in today. The only thing I haven't done is because of when the house was built, I want to crawl into the crawl space. I'm probably going to do that after we meet tomorrow. I think this analysis will be solid if you're willing to make any corrections in the crawl space. The worst case is I might make a slight adjustment to the price if I see something that we're not willing to fix or I don't think has a good return on your investment for fixing it. So let's take a look at this. First, we're going to go over the numbers, and then I'll go over my analysis of your house. So this is your house, or your mom's house, and you can see there, here she is. Looks like she's the only one on the deed, which is about what we expected. And it comes up as 1,301 square feet. If you know differently, let me know. I believe that to be accurate. And then we're going to go to the neighborhood sales. That will become our multiplier as we do this math. You won't see me do the math. I'll just show you what that equals out to. Now, in this situation, this neighborhood is not that big, and a lot of the houses had basements, so it gets a little complicated. In this situation, we were pretty lucky. Appraisers are going to use 3 comparable sales. 2 of them will come from inside the neighborhood, and 1 of them will come from outside the neighborhood. Because this neighborhood is better than most of the neighborhoods around it, any comp that comes from outside the neighborhood is most likely going to bring our house down. So I can't speculate on what they'll pick, but they could pick one and say Donaldson Hills and it would be even, or they could pick one and say Blue Hills, which probably wouldn't help us much. But so what we're going to do is we're going to focus just on this neighborhood. Here's our sales that we have here. This is the one that I'm really hanging my hat on. You can see right here I sold this one. I listed it at $159 at 110 a square foot. That was all I could justify at the time. Now this is a little while back, and it sold for 117 a square foot. This one got bidded up, much like Philip's friends Megan and Lee Wingo, and that's pretty rare. In fact, I didn't think it would appraise out, but we got the appraisal. So all the more reason is that you got to be careful of agents who only want to sell to appraisal. In other words, they say, well, I'm not going to list it, or you can't get that, because the appraisers sometimes will come up with the value. If this house had lots of improvements, I wouldn't have been concerned. But I'll show you the house real quick. So this is the house. I use very professional photography. I'm not trying to run down the house, but this house looks way better in photos than it did in real life. You can see that they have removed that wall there, which gave it a little more space. Not many updates have been done. The floors were done, but your floors are done as well. And the other thing is that the kitchen, I had told Philip this, but the kitchen was remodeled about 13 years ago. However, as you can tell, these are hardwood or heart pine, and they didn't look that great in person. They didn't match the rest of the house, but it's a sharp little house, and that wall's been removed. So you would think that, there's many other houses in the neighborhood that have been taken to the next level, but that just goes to show you how good the market is. So in talking with Philip, I know you guys are open to spending money that has a good return on your investment, but there's not a lot of that money to be spent, because basically homeowners will move in and do the work and not worry about how much it pays them. So we got this next one here, 109 a square foot. Ended up selling for 107. Mine sold for 117. Then this one listed 113 a square foot, ended up selling for 112. Frankly, I think you kind of sell close to where you list, and we can look at these photos too. That one didn't do inside photos. That's a Ben Wilson house. It probably needed a lot, and that didn't have any photos as well. That probably needed a lot. There's one I left out, one comparable I left out you might run across, and I'm just saying this just in case you see it, but it was a house that methamphetamines had been made at the house, so I just took that out of the equation altogether. I showed it to several people, just didn't have anybody willing to risk the environmental hazards of the methamphetamines, and it sold for way cheaper. It just completely ruins all this, but we're going to count that as a one-off and hope that that doesn't affect our sale at all. So now let's take those numbers that we have here and let's make them work for our house. One of the things I like to go over with folks are the things that do not, that are immeasurable and do affect the sale versus things that do not affect the sale. One of the things you need to see here is that square footage, past sales, the condition of the property, all these things, they affect the sale. Garage space, in this case we don't have a garage. The comps that I used also didn't have a garage. Those affect the sale. What I get a lot of pushback from different clients of mine is these kind of things. Busy roads, pools, size of the yard, access to the backyard, they can go up or down. In each case, I kind of put an arrow if it went up or down. In this case, we don't have any comparable sales that I have adjusted for. I can't adjust for those on paper, but I do know it affects the sale. In this case, our comparables are similar enough that it really doesn't matter. So when we look at those comps, I took an average of our top 3 comps. Averages are not usually important in real estate, except until you narrow down your comparable sales. So I do take an average of the top sales. When I do that, you come out to about $112 a foot, or $145. This is almost exactly where I had verbally put Philip, but I wanted to see the inside of the house. So $112 a foot is a fair price. If we list higher and you get an offer of $145, you're going to know where they're coming from, and we don't need to be angry or frustrated that they're X number of dollars below our list price, because they're looking at the same data that I'm looking at, and I want you to be prepared that you may need to sell for $145. That's not where I want to list. The next thing is I want to talk about what we call fantasy land. Now, what I do here is I assume that the market has to go up, but I try not to ignore the data completely. So I would love to say if this had granite countertops and it was in immaculate shape. I still haven't been under to see where we stand with plumbing and electrical. My highest comp so far also had some plumbing and electrical issues that needed to be addressed, just like you guys do, at $117 a foot. So what I'm imagining there is that the appraiser will give us enough appreciation in the market and just basically stretching comps to say that, well, the market has to go up, somebody has to sell for a little bit more to justify an average of $117 a foot. I think we can go even a little higher, but that's realistic. Obviously, I came from $110 a foot to $117, adjusting much more than $5 per square foot over the average starts to become unrealistic. So we can't stretch a whole lot, but we can try. So that would be a list price of $152. I wanted to try to get us to $159, but I want to also have you grounded in reality. And if I start at $159, we're going to have a problem with appraisals and wasting time on the market with buyers who are anxious but actually can't close. A conservative buyer will offer $159, and a liberal buyer will be bringing a high loan-to-value loan, which means they only have, say, 3.5% down on FHA or 100% down with THDA. You don't need to know what those mean, but my point is the less skin someone has in the game, the more likely they're going to offer a high price. The higher the loan-to-value ratio is, it means the harder that appraisal is going to be to get through. When the loan-to-value ratio is very tight, the appraisers and the underwriters are really hard on that house. So if we get a 20% down loan and we're at $159, yeah, we'll probably be close to being okay. But realistically, at $154, we would be selling for higher than anyone has ever sold in the neighborhood per square foot, including houses that have been completely remodeled. We just haven't tested that market real good right now because we haven't had any come off the market. We've had a few that were really nice, but they weren't comparables. They were much larger houses, and because they were larger, they sold for less per square foot, if that makes sense. So my suggestion is we list at $154.9. We keep in mind that we have $10,000 of room to get a fair price, and we fight for that $154.9. If we overprice, we reduce the likelihood that we'll end up in a bidding war, and that will actually drive the price above list. I'm comfortable all the way to $159, but I don't think it's in your best interest to start there, because I do think that we won't get the kinds of buyers that we need who actually bring us to close. So that is my suggestion. The only caveat I have is if I run into something major, underneath the house that we're not willing to fix. If it's minor enough that we can fix it, then we'll go ahead and fix that. But I hope to see you guys tomorrow, and you've had a little time to marinate on this, and we can move forward. I'll have the documents in hand. Thank you.